Now, Ashley, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me on.
The last book you wrote was wonderful. I just loved it, Lake Erie Monsters.
Yeah.
Any lawsuits about it?
No, not yet. Knock on wood. There's no wood in here. But.
You came a little close in a few places there, to family history, God knows, You never know.
Right.
When you're talking about the Irish, you never know what's going to come up.
Right.
And there's a lot of families are related. You don't think they are. But there are a lot of, did you find that out?
Yes, very small area. County Mayo is probably the area where most of the Cleveland Irish came from is probably about the size of the Sandusky Bay with a smaller population.
Yeah.
So it's very much lots of related families that don't realize it.
But the funny thing about it, I talk to a lot of people all over Cleveland all the time, every day. And that last book, I didn't hear anybody knocking it. Everybody liked it.
Good.
They did. And they said, and most people said to me, when is she writing another one? I said, I'd say it'll be coming soon. So anyway, what possessed you to write a book about the Titanic?
I've been fascinated with the Titanic since I was a child. Before the movie, I always like to point out. I was young when they found the wreck. I think it was found in 1990.
Something like that.
And in the years after that, there was a lot of news coverage, books written about finding the wreck, and that spurred interest in the people who had actually been on the ship. And while we hear a lot about the first-class passengers and the people who were very wealthy and famous, because it was some of the richest people in the world that were on this ship.
Oh, I know.
John Jacob Astor, who was kind of like Donald Trump of his day. Guggenheim. Some names that we still know. The Strauss or the couple, Isidore and Ida Strauss, who had actually founded Macy's in New York. We've heard a lot about them, but one thing that I've known just from reading first-hand accounts is that there were 150 people about in third class who were Irish immigrants coming to America, and we rarely hear the story told from their vantage point. Almost always the fictional accounts, including the movie, is set through the eyes of a first-class passenger because that was where all the glitz and glamour was. Third class is much different. It was a completely different experience of not only of the ship but of the time period. This was before any type of labor union movement. There was a lot of child labor. They were actually in the middle of a coal strike, where many passengers that were supposed to be on smaller ships ended up on the Titanic because the coal miners were striking, as were some of the people that worked as stokers. And I thought it would be interesting to tell it from an immigrant experience.
Now, Ashley, I came over third class,
Yeah.
and I left from Cove. And so this book brought back some memories to me in a way, because I went to Cove, stayed overnight the night before in a kind of a seedy hotel on the third floor with one bathroom for 20 rooms.
Right.
So I stayed there, and then I boarded the ship, got on the tender. So as I read this, I'm thinking to myself, my God, that was me. Now, I wasn't as poor as some of the people in third class then, back in the time of the Titanic. Then, to counteract that, years later, and it just brings out what you said about the wealthy people, not that I'm saying they were wealthy or anything, but I went back to Ireland on Queen Mary, the new Queen Mary.
Okay.
And that was a lot different.
Right.
It was a lot. I wish I could have done it the first time I came, but we didn't have a third class fare. That was it. But anyway, I wanted to ask you about Bruce Isray, the guy that was the head of White Star Line at the time. By the way, I sailed on the White Star Line also. I came on the Sylvania, which is a later version of smaller than the Titanic. But Bruce Isray has been kind of roundly condemned through the ages as being a coward and saving himself before the other passenger. Why did you take the other view? What research did you find that kind of changed that? Because in your book, you're kind of sympathetic to him.
I am. I wanted to show kind of a more complicated picture. So Bruce Ismay was from a very wealthy aristocratic family that owned the White Star Line. He became president of the White Star Line before the Titanic was even built. The family was originally from Liverpool, but they spent a lot of time in Ireland. And Bruce Ismay loved Ireland so much that he actually retired in Connemara, in County Galway, which is very close to the County Mayo border. In both movies, because there's a movie I think in the 1950s called Night to Remember.
I remember.
And in the very famous blockbuster movie from 1997, he's always portrayed as kind of like, I can't use foul language on this program, so like a brute, someone who is very uncaring. All he cares about is breaking records and getting to New York a day early, which really there's not much evidence for that. But and then who saves himself in the end in one of the last lifeboats. And I actually connected with someone who is related to, or who's part of the Ismay family. His name's Cliff Ismay, and he had written a new book about Bruce Ismay called Understanding J. Bruce Ismay, and it's like it's an easy storyline to kind of, like, everyone wants a villain, but I think it was much more complicated than that. I don't think that if you're going to demonize anyone or blame them for the wreck, it shouldn't be him.
But didn't he help, in the book, at least the
Yes.
message I got, that he helped an awful lot of people, saved a lot of people's lives
He
in
did.
the end by guiding them to the lifeboats and doing what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, so the story is, and I think this is my telling, and it's in the book, which is called Many and Not. In the book, and I think this is a more accurate version of what happened. Instead of, in the movie, you see him just jumping into this lifeboat when there's many women and children left on board. Well, there were. Like I said, this boat was probably launched probably around 1:45 in the morning. The ship was completely gone about 30 minutes after that. What he was actually doing is he was, as the president of the White Star Line, he was standing in the boat trying to encourage women to get in because they were afraid. Many of them didn't speak English. There were some Irish people on board who only spoke Gaelic. People from the Ottoman Empire who were Syrian. Well, today we would consider them Syrian. And they didn't want to go. They didn't want to be separated from their husbands. They might not have understood how fast they were going down, especially after being assured that this ship would not sink. So he was standing in the boat, taking women by the hand, trying to get them in, and they had started to lower, and one of the crew members told him to just stay in the boat to reassure these people that were leaving, and it was overwhelmingly third class. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to give away too much of the story, but it shows him as someone who is very trying to show some leadership towards the end, as the president of the White Star Line.
Now, you weren't as kind to Mr. Guggenheim.
No. And I don't think that, see, like I said, if anyone's going to be portrayed as a villain, we tend to glamorize the first class passengers who are on board and talk about how wealthy they were. I have done some reading. They were probably richer in their day, if you account for inflation and all that, than Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos.
Sure.
They probably had more wealth than those people. And people say, oh, they were so glamorous. It's such a tragedy that they were lost. But we don't hear about how sleazy some of them were. And
you deal with that a bit in your first book, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do. Benjamin Guggenheim was an art collector. The Guggenheim Institute is named after him. He actually had snuck a French mistress aboard.
Ooh la la.
Despite being married and having 3 daughters, waiting for him in New York. So I don't know how he thought this was going to work. Everyone knew about it. It was an open secret. He was flaunting it. The mistress survived. Her name was Albert, something like that. She survived, he did not. And part of the reason, because first-class men really didn't have any trouble getting into these lifeboats. They were generally allowed if they asked. What they thought they were going to do was wait until the very end, get all their stuff. They were waiting to get their stuff from the cargo hold and out of their rooms, and go in the last couple boats, and they thought they were going to pay people off. There were some rumors of gunshots going off at the end. Some people say it was the crew shooting at people. I think from doing some reading, it could have been someone took out one of their personal guns and was trying to scare people away, one of the first-class passengers. So no, Guggenheim was definitely no hero. He did die, and you see that in the movie, where he's standing around saying, we're going to go down like gentlemen, just bring us a brandy. But these people didn't really believe the ship was sinking, or they thought they were going to be rescued. So, very cowardly, very sleazy. I also talk about John Jacob Astor,
Yes.
who had just divorced his wife and married a 19-year-old. So,
How old was he then?
he was at least 50. He was 49, 50.
Oh, let's hope for me and JC, yes. And then he,
Right.
we're older than that even.
And like, again, she survived, he did not. He had tried to pay someone off to get in the boat with her, but they would not allow it.
The central, let me talk, I'm losing my
Yeah, we should probably.
I'm losing my sound here. Hang on a second. I can try to get it fixed here. Central character is Mary Mullen. Talk
Yes.
about her.
Mary Mullen was a real person. She grew up in County Galway. I actually found her on a couple of genealogy sites. And before I started writing the book, because I wanted to base this on a true story, there were some things from the beginning that kind of weren't adding up. It showed that she had been born quite a distance from her actual home, which didn't make sense to me. If I remember correctly, she had been born in the city of Galway, but was raised in Clarenbridge.
And Hardwell.
Yeah, and she was born into a wealthy family. They had servants, which is unusual for the time period. But they were what we call Anglos. They maybe you could explain better what an Anglo
Oh, the
is.
Anglo-Irish?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they favored the British.
Yeah.
They did, the Anglo-Irish, yeah.
And they owned a public house or a pub and a shop. She went to boarding schools for most of her life, but when she was 17, her family hired a man named, his English name was Dennis Lennon, and they decided to run away together. Like I said, this is all a true story. Booked passages on a ship called the Cymric, got switched to the Titanic at the last minute. And her family was furious about this because he had disappeared from his job a couple weeks before. They didn't realize that she was going too. Supposedly the oldest brother chased them all the way to Cove with a gun, trying to get rid of this guy and take his sister back.
Well, that didn't happen to me.
No, it didn't work out well for him.
It didn't work, yeah. Thank God it didn't happen to me. Nobody was after me. If anyone was after me with the gun, it was probably to get rid of me, to get me out of the country.
Yeah, and it is all a true story, and I thought it would make a fascinating book. I think the only reason it has not been written before is because, like I said, there's just this lack of interest in the third-class passengers and how they experience the ship.
I must tell you this, actually. Normally I start reading a book today and I read about 5 pages and the old eyes get tired. Do you know, I stayed with this from beginning to end, and I did it. It took me 12 hours.
Oh.
But I read the whole thing because it got a hold of me and I couldn't put it away.
Good, that's what I
And
like to hear as a writer.
It's a great book. But also, I really admire the research you did on this, because I'm sure you didn't know much of it when you started. Especially now, did you know about Addergool? I'm that part of the book. That's where I
No,
grew up.
that all, there's a great website called Encyclopedia Titanica that is a great resource for anyone who wants to learn. That is how I found out about Addergool.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually, my family is from County Mayo,
Sure.
and they were from County Mayo too, and I had never heard this before. They just weren't mentioned, in all the accounts of the Titanic. You didn't see them in the movie. you saw bits and pieces of Irish passengers, but not any that were based on the real people. And their story, I think, is just as interesting, if not more so, than John Jacob Astor.
This would make a nice movie.
Yeah.
It really would.
It would. I don't know if anyone's up to make another one, but it would make a great movie.
Yeah, but it's different characters. Anyone that wants to get it, who's got the camera out? JC, have you got the camera out? Picture of this?
Yeah, I'll get a picture of
The
that.
name of the
Sherry.
book, by the way, is Many and Not. Why did you spell it that way?
Many a Not is a line from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
Yeah.
If you read some of the more like pop history of the Titanic, there's always been rumors that there was a cursed Egyptian mummy on board, and that there was a cursed copy of a spell book or some kind of something that had been owned by a sorcerer, and that's what led to this thing. Obviously, I don't believe that, but I was very surprised to find out that those are all based in fact. Someone probably did take a mummy on board. In my book, it was John Jacob Astor. I don't know for sure that it was him. Egypt was a popular place to go at the time. So in the book, you'll see that scene, what really happened. And there was a book on board that was worth a lot of money called the Rubaiyat, and there's a line in it that's very famous. It's a book of Persian poetry. And it's the line is many and not unraveled by the road. So it's kind of about Mary Mullen and Dennis Lennox's journey and their road to America.
Do you know the one thing I was pulling for Eamon to
Yes.
survive it.
The thing is, I didn't have any information on what actually happened to him because, like I've said, and I posted about this on Facebook, there were definitely survivors whose names were never published. Originally, the news reports stated that there were as many as 800 people rescued. I think the final number before they landed in New York was 712. It was then reduced to 705. So there was at least 7 people who did not want to give their names. Didn't want it published, probably didn't want people, they were leaving home for a reason.
Like Mary.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much of what
Right,
happens,
right.
but
Finna, rather.
there was a man who boarded in Cove with someone else's ticket that he bought off of him. I was not sure what happened to him because there was no record of it. But I had to speculate, and I wasn't sure. I thought about changing the ending, but I wanted to be realistic. Most of the men in third class did not survive. If they did, it was often just by chance. 30 men survived by floating on an overturned boat that was supposed to be launched, but they couldn't get it out on time. So these crewmen and some of the third class passengers who had stayed there to help ended up surviving and floating away. But I mean, I don't want to give away.
All right, we don't. I want people to buy the book too. They can
Right.
get it on Amazon, can't they?
Yes.
You don't have any copies left.
I don't have any copies right now, but
I want you to sign this before you leave me today.
I will definitely sign it for you.
autograph it.
I'm always
Yeah,
happy to
but
sign.
I want to come back. I want to come back and talk to you though about the part where third class were locked away, and how how some of the stewards on the boat were using guns actually to keep the people in third class. You know, apparently they forgot that the ship was sinking. I want to come back and talk a bit about that and what must be going through people's minds, because I got to pay a few bills here. Stand by. All right. 4-2. And the email to contact the Mayo Society is clevelandmayosociety@gmail.com. clevelandmayosociety@gmail.com. You know, at Joyce Buick GMC, with one of the largest selections in Ohio of new Encores, Envisions, and Enclaves. Their selection of GMC Terrains, Acadia, Sierras, and Yukons, well, it's very impressive. Whether you are considering a new or a used vehicle, Joyce pledges to offer the best in pricing and service. They offer great leases and 0% financing. They have hundreds of vehicles in stock. Mike and Sean Joyce are on the premises every day. Visit the used car department for a great used car and truck selection. Visit them online at drivejoyce.com. Call them 440-934-6600 or visit them at 380-39 Chester Road, right off I-90 in Avon, Ohio. You know, for generations, Chambers Funeral Home has been a part of the great history of Northeast Ohio, providing meaningful funeral services what Chambers strives to provide. Pre-planning your future funeral arrangement is a wise and sensible choice in estate planning, and Chambers can assist you and your family. From traditional burial services to cremation services, the funeral directors at Chambers are skilled in assisting families of all faiths and financial abilities. Please call Chambers Funeral Home at 216-251-6566 or visit them at chambersfuneral.com, and they would be honored to discuss all of the many options available to you and your family as we commemorate a life well lived. Chambers Funeral Homes are proud to be family owned and operated and helping Greater Cleveland families since 1933. There are 3 locations in the Cleveland area that are to serve you. You can call them at 216-251-6566. And speaking of Chambers Funeral Home, Friday night I went to Chambers Funeral Home to pay my respects to the Fox family on the passing of Sean Fox. His 5 daughters and his 3 sons were there, and they spoke to everybody. They're just such a wonderful family, such a big part of the West Side Irish American Club. And of course, Sean was president of the Laborers Union, very active in the Irish community, has been his whole life. And it was great to hear the story about Sean meeting Agnes many years ago over in the Kong, and how he used to ride by her house on his bicycle, nobody had a car then. That was in 1854. And he'd ride by the house and he'd wave at her, he'd see her, and later on to get married, have 8 kids, and really create a legacy for the Fox family here in Cleveland. But to be admired and respected, they're just a wonderful family. And Sean has left a great legacy. It's 11:26 here on the Irish Show on WHK, AM 1420. Now this, stand by.
I haven't. I don't know that.
Gotta get your book over there at 12.
Oh,
So they can
really?
sell it there.
Yeah, I'll
That
mail
would be
it.
good.
It's 11:26 here on the Irish Show on WHK. You think, Ashley, you think you should get the band to sing a song?
Sure.
Jerry, I got it.
Oh, yeah. Eddie, what you got?
Okay, I got a shout out to the University of West Virginia's rugby team who are listening right now. These are Seamus Cooney's Merry Mob, also known as the Morgantown Maniacs. One of his best buddies is Harry Lucas. He's from Wales. He plays wing, loves Irish music, and he and Seamus are going to be off to graduation, off to Ireland, Wales, and then as long as the money holds out, when they hit the continent. Mark Lewis, a real good center, returning for a 2nd season. Kyle Kennedy, a great Irish-American center. Dylan, scrum half, also known as Red. He's from his ginger hair. Robbie Bradshaw, scrum half from Hudson, Ohio. Big Phil, plays 2nd row. He's from St. Ed's. Another Irish-American recruit is Sean Hennessy. He plays fullback, and he's from Xavier in New York City. Michael Duffy, another Irish-American recruit, Seamus got, plays wing. He's from Walkaway, New York. Will Bryant, prop and flanker. He's from Avon Lake. Brett, also known as Boogie, and Zach, known as ER. They're going to be playing Bowling Green, and that's going to be their first game, and they're planning on taking the conference #1. So, okay, guys, have a great time. I thought we were going to play, Almost Heaven.
Well, we'll get to that.
Well, we'll get to that later on. Either that or their favorite is the Rose Tattoo, Dropkick Murphys. That's their team's favorite song.
Okay, well, that's good. But listen, Eddie, because of that news report you gave us, tell them that everyone on that team has to buy a copy of this book.
Yes.
And it's called Many and Not, a story of the
Okay.
Titanic Irish, and it's by Ashley Herczog. Remember that name. Go to Amazon and get
Of
a
course.
copy of the book. These young guys will love this book, and it's a little bit of salacious conduct.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
A little bit of that in there. Ashley also includes that in there. Oh,
I always include a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys,
not too
you gotta go run out and get this book.
that's right. Especially about old Guggenheim.
Well, what they say, well,
Yeah.
you know, rugby players, most of them don't know how to read, but that's okay.
You've been knocked in the head too many
I love
times.
that. I'd say, Eddie, you're not too popular with the rugby team right now. Anyway, do you have any favorite kind of music? You like everything, probably.
I do. I hate to sound cliche, but I do like a little.
I
bit
like
of
that too.
everything.
I love classical music too.
Yeah.
I love bar drinking, beer swilling, songs. You want to do another song there, you guys?
Yeah.
We'll do this one for Ashley. Now, listen,
We will.
she's a famous writer. She just doesn't write books. You've been a writer for years,
Yeah.
haven't you?
Yes.
Do you still write for townhall.com sometimes?
I do. I write on and off for Town Hall. I have for years and years. I think it's going on 15, maybe more. I write for a number of political websites. I've been published on Tucker Carlson's website. I have written for the Heartland Institute, covering healthcare news from a free market standpoint, always. And I'm always trying to give a perspective that you don't hear very often. Most of our news organizations are based on the coast, and people writing the stories and reporting the news are living there. They're kind of in a bubble. You don't hear a whole lot of reporters coming
Not out here with us.
Yes, in the
Yes.
Midwest.
I like what you write.
Thank
You
you.
surprise me sometimes.
Yeah. I know.
A lot. I don't know. You're going one way and then different.
No, I always try to have a mind of my own.
You do.
I always try to maybe instead of just taking the default position, maybe looking at it from both sides or trying to understand both sides. Although it's getting harder these days to understand some of the things that people are proposing.
Yes.
But I try to be fair. You know, I went through journalism school. They tried to train us to be objective, and obviously most journalists are not objective. But I do make an effort.
Just got heard from Seamus, and they're all buying the book.
That's
That's
thank
a
you
good
so
start.
much.
How many is that? About 20?
Well, he's gonna pass it out through the rest of the university.
That would be great if they did.
Great, yeah. Go to Amazon.com. It's there, right?
Yes, my last name is spelled Herzog. If you search my name, Ashley Herczog, it should come up. I know the title is sort of unusual, but it is a reference to one of the Titanic legends. So many a knot, it's spelled, the word knot is spelled K-N-O-T.
Okay. Well, we're going to hear from our band now, and then we'll come back and talk more to you. What are we going to do?
Yeah, well, just when we were listening to Ashley talk there about the Titanic and the people that died on the Titanic, there's a song that we play, and we like to play it sometimes at the end of our show. It's a song called "Boat of Angels," so it was maybe quite fitting. So it's a song. My wife. Well, one of the things I love about my wife, one of the many things, is when she always plays a lot of like very ethereal music at home, like Celtic music, and very calming music. This, like Enya, that sort of stuff. And this song I was playing one time. It's by a singer called Ione, and she's a Celtic singer. And I just really liked the melody. Thought it was a beautiful melody. And so this is our version. It's like a wee bit different, but. Yeah, I think it's about my own feeling is that it's about what happens, like, no matter what religion or whatever you are, everybody at the end of our journey on this earth, whatever happens to us. I think this is maybe what it's about. It's called the Boat of Angels. So I hope you like it. I thought it would be fitting.
Yes.
Lovely stuff there. How'd you think of that?
It's beautiful.
Ah.
Beautiful music.
See what goes on
Thank you.
here?
I thought that
Actually,
would be
see what
fitting.
goes on here on Sunday morning?
Yeah.
Next
Very
Sunday,
soothing.
next Sunday, you'll probably be back in Sandusky next Sunday. You're living in Sandusky now, are you?
I am right now.
But you won't be around Cleveland because we have that that event coming up on what's it called, National Tree Day next
One
Sunday.
world.
One world.
My schedule is always last minute. We kind of fly by. the
Stop
seat.
by if you do. We're broadcasting from
One
there.
World Day next Sunday at the
One World
Cultural
Day.
Gardens.
Okay.
And this is the first year we're having beer at the garden. It's not a beer garden now, it's Sullivan's Beer at the garden. And we're doing the program live, so if you stop by, that'd be a great time to have a big armful of books, wouldn't it?
Oh yes, it
So-
would. Yes.
But
I love
anyway,
the cultural gardens.
it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
And the Irish garden and the Italian garden, the Greek gardens, they're all, you know, when Eddie Crawford started the restoration of that garden a few years ago, he was driving by it for years and he said, God, this thing has got to have. We've got to do something with it. So we got a lot of his friends together and they put the money together. I think they came up with 300,000 or 400,000 for the first batch of money to get it going. But what it did was it inspired a lot of the other nationalities to do the same thing. And now you have a great resurrection of interest
Yeah.
in the gardens all around. It's going to be a great day. You know what's great if you're there? There's no traffic on it. There's no cars. So
Okay.
if you have one of those scooters, one of those electric scooters, my son Jerry, he said he's got a couple and just step on it and they go all right along there. You can buy those scooters, you know.
Yes, I
Charge them up, keep them in the back of your car.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
daughter wants one.
Does she?
Yes.
Yeah. Ashley, now that this book is done, what about the next one?
Yes, I am working on a follow-up to Lake Erie Monsters, which was set in Cleveland during the 1880s. This one is also about my ancestors who came from Ireland, but it is set in the 1860s. And this is actually when Cleveland was rising to prominence. It was right after the Civil War. A lot of cities in the South had been completely destroyed by the war.
Those are the Rockefeller years.
Yes, they actually found a Standard Oil in 1867. This was when Cleveland was considered the Golden City. You hear these
Oh, yeah.
old stories about streets being paved with gold. It wasn't necessarily New York. New York is very dangerous, very crowded, very dirty. If you've ever seen the movie Gangs of New York,
Oh, terrible.
it was not a nice place to live. So a lot of the immigrants, if they had the resources, or sometimes just by luck, as it's going to be in my book, wanted to come to the Midwest, to Cleveland, especially. Chicago was starting to come along. And this was probably when Cleveland was reaching its height as a city. And it was a wild time to be alive, probably even more so
Oh,
than
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And lots of political upheaval after the war.
Did you ever see that book about Rockefeller? It's called Rockefeller, the Cleveland Years. I've looked for it, so I got it.
I have a biography of Rockefeller at home, but I don't
This
think
isn't a
that's
biography, this is written by somebody else, but it's about his years in Cleveland and how he arrived here and why he left here. But it's very interesting, and you're right about Cleveland, the Gilded Age of Cleveland for sure.
Yes. It was a much sought after. It was probably, some people have compared it to San Francisco before that went downhill. Silicon Valley at its peak, where
Yeah.
everyone wanted to be, where all the new technology was coming from. It was definitely a place that people were flocking, and kind of a city of dreams at the time.
Yeah. So you get started on that now, so it'll probably take a year or so.
I'm hoping to have it out earlier than that, but I kind of write at an uneven pace.
Yeah.
It may be sooner, it may be this fall. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I'm just hoping, Ashley, that we sell enough of these books for you that a lot of them are sold and that you can write full time.
I would love to do
I
that.
bet you would.
So if anyone listens to this program can help me achieve that goal, and I will
Somebody
complete
come
my
up with
next
a nice
one.
$100,000 donation, buy all this $100,000 worth of books, and then you can write the next one.
Yes, I'm working on the next one. It's been very fun to write out. I'm living in Sandusky right now, which was also an important city at the time, believe it or not. It was actually destroyed in part by a cholera epidemic, but it was also an up-and-coming city, so I've explored the history of that town as well. It played an important role in the Civil War. I think anyone who is interested in the history of Cleveland would really like my next book, and I will definitely be in here to talk about it.
Oh, that's great, Ashley. Will there be any of the chambers in this book?
Yes, so the main character is going to be a member of the Chambers family.
Well, that's your
One of-
relatives too, right? You're a
Yes,
chamber.
he's my
You're
ancestor.
from the
So
Chambers.
I descend from someone named William Chambers, who was actually a Civil War veteran, which I didn't know until I started doing some independent research. My great uncle Grover Masterson had actually compiled a huge, I think he wrote 17 books, and a lot of it was just on our family history, including the Chambers, the Mastersons. I did not know until I started doing some other research that he had actually fought in the Civil War. So William Chambers obviously is a very common name in Cleveland, probably one of the most common, I would say.
Several of them.
Yes, you'd be surprised how
Kind of
many
Smith.
Irish people I know have someone named Chambers.
Did I give you that
Yes.
book about the Irish?
Yes,
the Irish
somebody.
Did I give you that book about the Irish nicknames?
Yes, I still have it. I put it to good use.
Do you
Yes.
go through it every so often?
I go through it and I actually use some of the nicknames without like actively.
Yeah.
I put my own spin on it because, like I said, writing historical fiction, I try to stay as close as I can to fact, but you can't be 100% accurate because you just will never have all the information. So the resources that you've given me have been very valuable.
You'll be able to quote coal oil Masterson. He was probably
Coal oil
Russian.
Masterson. I don't even know what that means.
I-
It
I think he
sounds
must have sold coal oil. He must
Yeah.
have something like
Well, a
that.
lot of them stole it. That's
Yeah,
in Lake
yeah.
Erie Monsters because they couldn't afford it and the companies were very greedy. So they would go under the trains, pull out the
That lever that opens
the
bottom.
lever and collect the coal and deliver it around
Yes.
the neighborhood.
That's
That's
right.
what I had a scene in Lake Erie Monsters. This my great uncle made a career out of that.
Like
Robin Hood, yeah.
Exactly. Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all right, listen, we're going to go. It's coming up to 11:46. We go off at 11:56. So I want to get the band to play another one. Can you play another one, Andy?
Yeah, sure. We'll play an original. I have time for one more?
Yeah.
Just one more? Yeah, so this was on our first album. It's called Never Fear the Night.
Oh, I like this one.
You do?
Yeah. You got that famous drummer on there, right?
This guy?
Yeah. This guy here.
The infamous drummer. This is one of his favorites as well.
Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, Mark and I like this place.
Time was running out. Oh, this was it, his mind was made. And this to her he said, please do not go too far away, for here I'll stay, and I have wished upon a star. circles around the sun. For those who live in their dreams, nothing is as it seems. If it was